Hello again, precious friends. I'm sorry I'm a day late. Hope I'm not a dollar short. I promised last Monday that we would start yesterday, this Monday, talking about how I started my journey from a standard American diet. Actually, not really standard American diet. It was actually closer. It was actually almost vegetarian. At the time, they called it flexitarian. Ate small amounts of meats, largely beans, grains, and vegetables. But how I started my transition from there to a fully carnivore diet, or 80 to 90% carnivore diet, which I am thriving in general. So sorry about being a day late. My work schedule was terrible. It was very difficult, long hours, and then Monday, my husband had to go to Nashville for an appointment, and there was road work, and the journey took twice as long as it should have. But anyway, by the time we got home, I was just completely wiped out. Anyway, I hope you'll forgive me. So, after getting hooked in with a community and getting my head on straight about why I wanted to do this, the next step, and I cannot stress to you how important this is, if this is the only thing you do, this is going to be a giant step towards restoring active, functional, vibrant health, okay? And that is getting rid of the sucrose. And by sucrose, I mean sucrose, table sugar, added sugar on top of your food, out of the sugar bowl. Honey, I don't care what anybody tells you, honey is mostly sucrose. And most of the rest of it is fructose, which isn't any better for you. Okay. In fact, depending on your own personal injuries, it could be even worse, the sucrose. So honey's just not it. Don't let anybody deceive you about the reality of honey. Honey is concentrated flower nectar. It is not a carnivore food. Just because the bees refine it as opposed to human beings refining it doesn't mean that it's a carnivore food. It is sugar. The vast majority of it is sucrose and fructose. And whatever anybody tells you, it's sugar. And if you're trying to get rid of sugar in your diet to improve your health, honey needs to go. Sorry, that's just the way it is. Anyway, the other things that you want to look for are maltodextrin, glucose, dextrose, high fructose corn syrup. Most of you are probably pretty familiar with most of these terms, but all of that need to watch out for. So today we're going to talk about not only getting rid of sugar. Some sugar is obvious. Candy, ice cream, pastries, anything that tastes sweet, pretty much almost. That's going to be obvious. But we're going to talk about food labels again, because I want to show you some things. I don't know if you'll be able to see these. But this is a package of bacon bits, and here is the ingredient list. And I don't think I have the right kind of camera, but it says right here, sugar's 0 gram. But down here in the ingredient list, it lists not only sugar, but dextrose, both of them which are sugar. So how is it that they say 0 grams of sugar and there's sugar on the label? Okay. The reason they can do that is because if there is less than half a gram of the ingredient per serving. And I don't even think there's that much, actually. If there's less than half a gram of the substance per serving, and a serving here is 1 tablespoon. If there's less than half a gram, they can list it as 0. Okay, so at 7 grams per serving, half a gram could be a significant amount, right? So just keep that in mind. I don't happen to think that this has that much sugar in it. I happen to believe that the amount of sugar that's in this particular product is way, way less than half a gram per serving. But just keep in mind, if a serving is 7 grams and the sugar content is allowed to be up to half a gram, right? That's like just a rough, in my head, that's about 8% by weight sugar, if it's that high. Like I said, for this particular product, I don't happen to think it's anywhere near that high, but just keep that in mind. It can still say 0 sugar and still have up to half a gram of sugar per serving. So keep that in mind. If there's a food that's questionable, that you're thinking about eating, you figure there's a half a gram per serving. Okay, if it's on the ingredient list down here. So that's the first thing. And you have to keep in mind the serving size. Serving size on a package of bacon bits is really small. So if you're eating 3 or 4 tablespoons and there's a half a gram of sugar, you know, you've eaten 2 grams of sugar, maybe, and the label still says 0. Right? So keep that in mind. The serving size. If there's a half a gram of sugar in, say, a serving size of 100 grams, you're probably going to be, that's probably going to be acceptable, but you have to decide what is acceptable for you. Another thing, here we go, is we're going to talk about the difference between added sugars and the sugars that are naturally in a substance. We have a can of diced tomatoes with peppers that I keep for making chili. And on here, there's no sugar listed in the ingredients. The ingredients are tomatoes, water, chopped green chili peppers, and salt. Then there's a tiny bit of calcium chloride, which keeps the tomatoes from becoming mushy, and citric acid, which keeps the tomatoes tasting tangy in the can. I don't have a problem myself with citric acid and calcium chloride additives to food. You have to decide that for yourself. I don't have a problem with it. It doesn't seem to impact my health at all, so I don't mind. But there's no sugar here. But on the label, like I said, you can't see it. Total carbohydrates is 4 grams and sugars is 3 grams. Okay, what that means is there's 3 grams of sugar in the tomatoes and chili peppers that are in this can. That's the sugar that comes with the food. Okay, then a little tiny bit of sucrose and a little tiny bit of fructose. And this is 3 grams again per serving. And there is 2.5 servings per can. So this entire can is almost 9 grams of sugar. So when you're using tomatoes, people often say tomatoes are a low glycemic food. Tomatoes are keto friendly. It depends on how much of them you eat. You have to keep that in mind. So this is a food I eat because it has 0 grams of added sugar. They don't put any sugar in the can with the tomatoes, but the tomatoes do have a little bit of sugar. So keep that in mind when you're deciding what you're going to eat. You have to count that. And then there's 1 gram of additional carbohydrate that's not sugar, and that's some kind of complex carbohydrate. And so the last one that we're going to talk about, or second to last one, is we have a bottle that says 0 sugar teriyaki sauce. Okay, 0 sugar teriyaki sauce. And if you turn around the label, you can see total sugars on the label. I know you can't see it, but I can tell you it does say 0. But once again, you look down in the list, and I don't see anything that's sugar. It says water, soy sauce, allulose, dehydrated garlic, ginger, white distilled vinegar, salt, cornstarch, sesame seeds, caramel color, xanthan gum, spices, and sesame oil. Okay, now allulose. What's allulose? Allulose, it ends in ose, O-S-E. So it is sugar. However, it is largely indigestible in the human gut. So as a result, it can cause gut disturbances if you eat too much of it, but it also only has about less than 1/10 of the calories that sucrose has, or less than 1/10 of the food energy that sucrose has, because it's largely indigestible. Allulose is marketed as a natural product. It's created in labs with the use of bacteria. And it's created with cornstarch. So it is natural in a large respect, but again, that's something that you'll have to decide whether you want to eat it or not. But so allulose is a natural sugar, but they don't necessarily, you won't necessarily see it listed as added sugars because it's not digestible largely in your gut. It just basically goes through you. If it bothers you digestively, yeah, avoid it. If it doesn't, but still, I would caution you not to eat too much because it is sweet, and that can cause issues. So there's another type of sugar. And then the last one is, here's a package of pork rinds. This is a staple food for some people on the carnivore diet because it has a crunchy texture. It keeps people from like going to crackers and chips and stuff like that. It can help keep those types of foods at bay. And there's some people, though, who want to avoid these because they themselves can trigger cravings, and people can kind of tweak out on them and eat too many. So, but like I said, that's up to you. You have to decide what you're going to do. And down here, once again, sorry about the crackling noise. I'll try to keep it to a minimum. It says less than 1 gram of carbohydrate per serving. And a serving is 1/2 ounce. 1/2 ounce. Now, pork rinds are really light, so a 1/2 ounce is a good size handful. But there's less than 1 gram per 1/2 ounce. And when it says less than 1 gram, that means it's less than 1 gram, but more than 1/2 gram, right? So unless you're measuring very, very carefully, you're probably going to have to concede that there's at least 1 gram of carbohydrate in here. And it doesn't list sugar on the list, which means that there's no added sugar, or less than 1/2 gram of added sugar per serving. But if you go down here in, once again, the ingredient list, we got fried pork skins, salt, and maltodextrin and dextrose. Okay, those are sugar, folks. So there is a tiny bit of sugar, less than 1/2 gram, in this one serving of this. So if you're eating this whole bag, you are getting probably 1 gram or 2 of sugar. You have to keep that in mind, okay? So the only reason we're going through this is to let you know, just because the label says no sugar, it might be in effect, with the effect that it has on your body, no sugar, but that depends on how much of it you eat. If you tweak out on pork rinds and eat the whole bag of flavored pork rinds, these are jalapeno flavored, then it's not going to be 0 sugar. Okay? I just want you to be aware. I want you to be educated so you can make your own decisions. You're an adult. You get to decide what you're going to do, but I want you to be educated. I want you to understand the reality of this stuff. Sugar hides. Sugar makes things taste good. Sugar wakes up your taste buds. Your body reacts to it. It reacts with your brain chemistry, making you go more. And the food industry understands this. All right. So if you decide, or if your experience is that you're going to eat jalapeno flavored pork rinds, and then the next day you want more jalapeno flavored pork rinds, and then the next day you want more jalapeno flavored pork rinds, you're having a reaction. All right. You're having a brain chemistry reaction. And it's probably a good idea for you to not eat any more jalapeno flavored pork rinds. Okay. So what are we going to do this week? This week, we are going to get all the overt forms of sugar out of our diet. For right now, you can replace them with what they call non-nutritive sweeteners, as long as they don't bother you. Sucralose, it ends in ose, but it also ends in lose. So you'll notice allulose is considered a non-nutritive sweetener because you can digest so little of it. And sucralose, non-nutritive sweetener. Splenda is sucralose. Stevia glycerite. Monk fruit or lohongquo. And there's a few others, Ace K, aspartame, and a couple of others. If those things don't bother you and they help you in this stage of getting sucrose and fructose and honey and high fructose corn syrup and all those other things out of your life, then for right now, you know what? Go for it. As far as I'm concerned, that's what I did. I transitioned to non-nutritive sweeteners, knowing that at a later time I was going to transition off of them. That's okay. If you try to do everything all at once, you're almost guaranteed to fail. Your brain and your body are just not adapted to making those kinds of wholesale changes. Your body wants homeostasis. Your body is programmed to drive you to keep things the same. That's why we have cravings when we stop eating a food that we're accustomed to eating, right? So, this is a big job. It's not going to be easy, but I promise you it will be worth it. If this is the only thing you do to improve your health, you will absolutely reap benefits from this one change. Sugar, sucrose, dextrose, maltodextrin, honey, high fructose corn syrup. If those are the only words that you remember that are sugar, and check labels for those things. And keep in mind, as I explained on the label, that it might be listed on the package and it might be present in just a tiny minuscule amount, or the package might tell you that lead you to believe there's only a tiny minuscule amount when there's actually a good deal more, depending on what you eat, how much of it you eat. So you have to understand what the labels mean and you have to make your own decision. You can't just go by trusting what the label says, because they write the labels in order to encourage you to buy more of their product. That's what they do, all right? Whether or not I approve of that is immaterial. It's the reality of the world, and you're going to have to continue to be educated and make your own decisions, all right? So this week, we're going to get rid of the sugar, aren't we? We're going to kick sugar to the curb. We're going to use non-nutritive sweeteners as a crutch if we need to. There's nothing wrong with using a crutch if you need a crutch. Okay? As long as you're moving forward. That's all for today. I love you all. Peace, love, and meat. And I will talk to you again soon. Bye.